Okay, everybody ready? All right, very good. Ready? Okay, good evening, everyone. It is a beautiful March 12th evening, 6:30. This is the time for our regular meeting of the Board of Directors for the Northern Lebanon School District. I call this meeting to order. Flag salute, Director Kreiser. Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Martin, may I please have a roll call?
Yes. Kreiser,
Present.
Moyer,
Here.
Fowler,
Present.
Williams,
Here.
Blau,
Present.
Murray, Klein,
Here.
England,
Here.
Nom,
Present.
all members present.
Great, thank you. First item for the agenda this evening is the adoption of the agenda, and I would just like to note, per Dr. Messinger's email this afternoon, we did find a discrepancy, thank you, Director Williams, with item 9.3. We're going to have to table that for this week and move it to April. We'll clean up the document, make sure that it's accurate. So with that, is there a motion to table item 9.3?
Motion to table 9.3.
Okay, thank you, Director Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Williams. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of tabling 9.3, please indicate with an aye or a yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries unanimously. And with that, then we can adopt this evening's agenda with item 9.3 tabled. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Thank you, Director England. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Director Williams. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of adopting this evening's agenda, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Great. We'll move to item 3.1. This is presentations for this evening. I'll announce that the high school students of the month for March are Bailey McFeeters and Ariel McIntosh. This award is sponsored jointly by the Fredericksburg and Jonestown Lions Clubs. I don't see either of them here. Director Murray, would you like to announce the middle school?
Yes, thank you. The middle school student of the month for March is Jenna Murray. This award is sponsored by the Northern Lebanon County Rotary Club, and each recipient will be recognized at a future meeting of the Rotary Club.
Great, thank you. Okay, this evening, student board representative, Mr. Phineas Trout, are you here? Carter Kubicka, thank you. By the way, the play was wonderful. You guys did a great job. It was fantastic.
Good afternoon, board members. This Friday is our spring fling dance. We have our New York City trip for our club and student council on April 12th. And on June 6th is our first field day post-COVID.
Great.
Thank you.
Field day on D-Day. Great. Thank you very much. All right, Dr. Messinger, superintendent's report.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with Leanne.
Thanks. I just wanted to report back to the board on how our bond auction went. I would consider it a success. So we did get the 14.9 million, just under that, and 14.5 million, actually, it was like 14,575. And the interest rate came in at 4.03, which is lower than what we had gotten just this past fall. We were at 4.4. I know some of you had asked about that, the prior interest rates, and I will just go down those really quick. So in 2021, we were at 1.9, which was phenomenal. 22, we were at 3.65. 23, we were at 4.40, and 24, we were at 4.03. So that's a really good interest rate there for us. We did get $625,000 in premium. To explain that to you a little bit, just means that when we do that borrowing capacity, this does not count against us, that $625,000. So it gives a little more cushion to borrow more money for our final bond for the high school project. And also with the lower interest rate than what we were predicting, it saves us about $100,000 each year over the life of this bond in payments. Oh, and I can give a budget update as well. I know we're soon approaching that time. So
Sure.
we are working on it. We're fine. We almost have it finalized. We'll be presenting that in greater detail next month, and it'll become an item of discussion as we move forward into May and June when you are doing the 2 approvals for that.
Okay, thank you. Couple of things, and then I have a presentation for tonight. I wanted to mention just some of our students. I'll start with the musical. Carter did leave, but hopefully you got to see the musical. Kids did a fantastic job. Really struck by the ability of our kids across the board. A lot of voices in that musical, and they did a really, really good job. I was there Saturday night, very well attended as well. It was nice to see people get out. But I thought they did a great job with that. Girls basketball made it to states, got knocked out by Allentown Central Catholic on Saturday, but had a very good year. And I also want to mention, in case you haven't been paying attention, Sam Wolford finished 4th in the state in the PIAA wrestling, and Aaron Seidel, who happens to be near and dear to one of our board members' hearts, won his 3rd straight PIAA state championship. So the wrestlers had a great weekend as well. Did he actually go out and get some seafood Alfredo? That's the rumor on the street. Okay. All right. Very good. So just want to mention that if we can pull those guys out of a practice at some point, I know they're always practicing. We'd love to recognize them at a future board meeting if we can drag them out here. So you'll have to see if we can work that one out. If we put a mat right there, they can practice while we're talking to them. Okay. I usually in the mid-year talk a little bit about goals and where we are for the year. It's a little later than mid-year, obviously. But some things had occurred over the fall that I think we changed gears a little bit this year in terms of some things that are near and dear to my heart. And also I know that and speaking with you guys, that I know you're concerned about too. I had mentioned to you that we had received some preliminary data on a survey that we give our 8th, 10th, and 12th grade students. And it is concerning to see some of the mental health issues, particularly in the area of suicide. I still have not received the detailed results from that survey, but when I do, I'll share that. But there were some things there that really spoke to me in terms of we've been talking a lot about academics, but there's more to it. And I wanted to just talk a little bit about how I see the two of them working together. So Kirk, if you would go to the slide, the first slide. I just want to remind you, if you haven't looked at it in a while, our vision and mission statements are up there. To inspire today and equip for tomorrow is our vision statement. And you can see our mission statement there. I highlighted the word inspire. And I also highlighted to the words discover and pursue their educational interests for our students. And those things were important to the group. Some of you were on that group as we developed those statements. But I think we as a district, when you talk about a vision statement, you're looking at the future and we're not there yet. And frankly, there's some things I think we can do over the next 3-4 years, while I have my tenure here, that can really help us go down a path to get kids in here that are inspired to be here. So I wanted to just put that in front of everybody as we talk about some of the things we're working on. Just to make sure that that's at the forefront of our minds. Next slide. So when you go back to the performance objectives that the board talked about way back in June, it really was a focus on 2 different areas. The area of continued work in academics, and we've talked a little bit about that. I talked a lot about it at my end of year evaluation last year. And then also some of our goals that are related to, and I put in parentheses, it's family and student supports, but I'm just not 100% sure that family and student supports does enough. We've put together some nice programs. We've added some things. We've added the SLAM group. You got to see that last year. but I'll be truthful, those are great and we need them. But the more and more I think about mental health, the more and more I look at some of these issues and I study it, you know, there's an area there of relationships and communication that are related to mental health. And those supports can help, but there's some work that I think we can do internally to also help that component. So I look at this, they're related, and I'm going to kind of show how they're related. I've been working with the admin team and sharing information with them, trying to teach them. Actually, I'm having a hard time in front of you sitting here. I'd rather be up and pointing and moving around. That's how I taught. So it's a struggle for me to sit and talk. But when you start to dig into the research, and these are some of the folks that I've studied over the course of the years that I'm bringing back out, plus some new things, and I listed a couple of them there. You can really see how the two tied together. So if you go to the next slide, Kirk, I feel as though I missed. Is it go to the one after that? Go back. I think there's a slide you skipped over there. There it is. Thank you. I took a quote out of one of them, and I'll read it. I've been in a lot of places where it's high standards, data, state testing scores, accountability, and that's where the focus always stays. And I'll be truthful. I believe in a lot of that stuff. I think data is important, and I think it helps us ascertain where our kids truly are. I've also been in places where it's all about people, keep people happy, it's relational. Also great. I think we've done a lot of things in that area. When you talk about climate, and some of you know what the relationships were like 4 years ago and what they're like now, and it's a whole different world. But he goes on and says there was little accountability and people didn't like that. So what they've done in his work, and he talked about how they've been able to marry those two things together. So now, Kirk, to the next slide. I've been educating, you know, I'm in the middle of a book study with our leadership, and each month I've been sending you guys summaries of the book, the school culture book that we're studying. And sure. Thanks. How about this place? We got all kinds of technology. So I've been sending you guys summaries of the culture book. The last one we talked about, the last summary I talked about, was this truly collaborative environment where people tell people the truth, whether it's good or bad. So if I screw up, then Kelly has permission to come and say, Gary, you screwed this up. Or I think you should do, she'd probably say, I think maybe we ought to look at this differently. And you can have, and teachers talk to administrators, and students talk to teachers. I don't get it the way you taught it. I'd like to see it something different. Or a teacher telling a student, I really need you to work on this. So when you look at that culture, if you really truly have that collaborative communication back and forth, think about what you need for that. Well, you need to have a relationship with the person first. You're not going to go tell somebody you don't know, hey, I think you should do something different. So you got to build those relationships. And I've been talking about that when Director Nam comes for board policy. I've been talking about some of the things we've been doing internally to just start building relationships across the board. And we're living kind of on that, not yet. Living kind of on that I do, we do, you do model. So right now we're doing a lot of I do's, and we're trying to build some relationships and model that for some others. Well, once you have that, that's when the communication comes into play. I don't remember my wife ever yelling at me for anything when we first started dating. But now that we have that solid relationship, she's not afraid to communicate if I do something she doesn't like. But that you have to have that first. Well, okay, so then you start to look into mental health. Well, what's important with mental health? One of the key pieces that comes up in that research over and over and over again is that in order to really start working on mental health, again, you need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to communicate when you have a need and to be able to ask for help. You need to be able to communicate when you see someone in need. And there's a lot of components that go to that. But going back to the expectations I sent you back in the fall that came out of a study, only when those needs are taken care of can we really truly achieve student success. And I put those double arrows on there because it works both ways. The culture is important in terms of understanding what we want to do and building relationships, which is important for communication, which is important to mental health and important to ultimately student success. And it works the other way. Student success is dependent on mental health. Mental health is dependent on good communication. Good communication is dependent on having good relationships. And that's how the culture piece relates to all of that. So if you go back to those performance objectives, I had a focus of culture, and you guys also said about continued work in academics and those supports for families. I think it's evolved into a deeper understanding, and I think a little better. I think we have a little better opportunity to move forward with it now than we did last June when we started this process. Okay, now. Yep, that's it. All right, just a couple of things quickly about mental health. One, I've focused on this relationship building. I think that's an emphasis for us right now and will be for next year. From an education standpoint, we need to train people. We need people to, first of all, understand their own personal mental health. We need people to be able to understand what to do to help others. Empathy is a big piece of that, understanding warning signs. Active listening is something I don't have listed there, but something else that we need to be able to do. And we haven't done training in that area while I've been here. And I don't know that we've done a ton in the recent history. So we have some work to do there. And then support for that. Well, you're going to see a calendar tonight that's a little different than anything we've ever done. Part of that's because the state has enabled us to do it, but we're going to really, truly be able to add some professional development. We have some ideas for some mental health days for our staff, not only giving them mental health professional development and in-services, but also allowing them to practice it. We have ideas for what I'm calling student connection days, where we are focused on the relationship building with students. And again, our calendar gives us a little bit of leeway to be able to do that at this point. Counselor lessons, student scheduling. We go back to the word inspire. We have things we can do in our schedule, not quite. I know it's not you. It's got a mind of its own. We have things that we can do in our schedule that really start to get kids maybe more engaged in classes and areas that they want to be in. You know, Dave, you talk a lot about CTC. Those kids love that stuff. That's what they want to do. We have a lot of kids that want to take more classes in the field of tech ed, take more classes in the world of ag. And there's things we can do there to help with that. Counselor lessons, collaboration with staff, community engagement, getting them in here, sharing their stories, learning from them, career days. We have now, you heard SLAM, and you heard how that subcommittee has started. We now have a subcommittee specifically designed to community engagement. They just had their first meeting. We're going to continue with that and try to find ways to get them involved. So from a mental health standpoint, those are some of the things we've been talking about. Go ahead. And from an academic standpoint, I really want to work with the staff on the word clarity. You know, we tend to sometimes make education too hard. And there's some 3 simple questions that I have up there that if you thought about that in just about anything you do or anything you're teaching, what are you learning? Why are you learning it? And how will you know if you learned it? If you ask those questions to a student and they can tell you those 3 things, we're in pretty good shape. If our teachers can tell you those 3 things, we're in pretty good shape. And as a principal, if I walk into a room and I can figure out those 3 things, we're in pretty good shape. Where does that come into play? Lesson planning, curriculum. We're talking about how do we, are there ways that we can use our curriculum, maybe write our curriculum that it's a little bit more focused on that. We have small group instruction, interventions, differentiate, this data, all those things are still in there, but they're in there within a context of being a little more clear for both our staff and our students. And then again, collaboration. I want to get students involved. I want to hear from them. What are you looking for? What types of classes are you looking for? We all have great ideas about, oh, we got to start this class. We got to start that class. I don't remember the last time we talked to our kids about it. So that's going to be a piece of it moving forward as well. Okay. Okay, these are some things that I sent to you before. I put them up here because I want to revisit these. I've changed them a little bit here and there. I'd like to get a couple of board members and I'd like to work through some of the language, just like we did with the long-term plan. We talked about when we did the long-term plan of adding some core beliefs, some core educational beliefs. We never did it. We're in a position to do it. I think that some of these would be good examples that we could. We might want to tweak some things here and there. But I'll send something out. I'm interested in grabbing a couple people, working through it, and then making a proposal to add it to our long-term plan. If you look at that, you look at that first one, staff and student success, we create and sustain an environment where physical, mental, emotional well-being are understood and supported. Maintaining a positive, collaborative, and caring culture that facilitates student learning. Everyone accepts responsibility, including the students themselves. You know, some of that's no duh, you know, administrators, teachers, but even the students themselves. And then the accountability, and I like that accountability piece because of the positive attitude toward the work that stresses problem solving, not punishment. Too often, again, you have a conversation. Well, I'd really like to, you know, have you tried this? And that sometimes it comes across as, well, you don't like what I did, but that's not really what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is find ways to grow. And when you have those relationships, that's a lot easier to do. And then I think, got one more. Okay, for this year yet, before the end of the year, some things I want to accomplish. One, I want to work on those educational beliefs and adopt them. Two, planning on using that flexibility in the calendar to build a school year that allows for personal growth and relationship building. Now, I will say, as I mentioned in my email, construction put a damper on what I really want to do with the calendar. We have to give ourselves time over summer. We also have to give ourselves potentially some time over Christmas break as much as we can. And frankly, we wanted to write it in, and Brad, I forgot. We were talking about it, and I wasn't at my computer, and you know how that goes for me. Should have had you email me. Also want to understand that from a construction standpoint, we may wind up in a situation next year where, hey, we need to turn the power out for 3 days. So there's always a possibility that we need to make some tweaks to that due to construction. So construction's going to put a damper on that a little bit, but still, I think we have some things there. In-service schedule. We're already starting to talk about in-service days, aligning those to the mental health and academic initiatives. We've talked about the fact that, okay, if we're going to do this, if we're going to have this focus, how do we get to it from a human resources standpoint? We're going to be doing interview questions, revamping interview questions that align to where we want to be as a district, trying to draw in people that have similar goals. We're going to talk about scheduling changes. We've already started with the guidance staff and principals, looking at schedule changes, looking at graduation requirements and aligning that with our vision and mission statement. And then also it's important, I did update the staff in November. I want to update them again and then update them one more time at the end of the year. So now that I've given this to you, I'm going to get something out to them as well. So those are things yet for this year. That doesn't even begin to get into next year, which we'll talk about more as the spring goes on. That was it. So I just want to give you an update on how we've progressed through the year. Certainly can answer questions or try to if you have any. I did a lot of talking.
I don't have a question per se, but I just appreciate your enthusiasm. I appreciate the energy. You said in an email that you sent, oh man, we got to be inside for a board meeting, but you brought some energy and I appreciate that very much. So yeah, it's an exciting time to be at Northern Lebanon. So thank you.
I truly appreciate your response to the survey. oftentimes organizations do surveys and most times nothing gets done with those surveys. They get reviewed, it gets talked about, but then more often than not, there's no action taken. So I appreciate your willingness to take some action in response to those surveys. And, whatever you need from me, let me know.
Thank you. And there's been things too. Our administration's been very receptive, a little bit fired up, actually, I think, in some ways. I asked them, I'm fortunate to have a staff when they see trainings that align, they talk to me about it. In this case, Dr. Reese talked to me about a recent addition of PCCD on suicide and bullying, actually. And all the administrators have now completed that new training over the past couple of weeks. So, we're looking for those things and trying to keep that at the forefront as we grow as educators.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, I just want to say, I think when we set those goals for this school year, I think this is exactly the type of empirical plan that I think the board at the time wanted to see. So I just commend the administration for pulling this together and for the work that's already going on. I happen to know this week that I think Dr. Reese and some of your folks helped do some mental health for the secondary school administration, which I think is, that's exactly the kind of thing that we're looking for. So this is really exciting. Can you share this presentation with us via email?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
Is it attached to the agenda as well?
It's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll put
Great.
it there too.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Input? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Messinger. Any old business for this evening? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to public comment. There was no public comment indicated for this evening, so we will move to items for board action. Should be noted that public notice was given for this meeting in accordance with Act 84 of 1986. By notice of the president, the following action requires a voice vote. All votes in favor shall be stated with an aye or yes. All votes opposed shall be stated with a nay or no. All members abstaining shall state I abstain when prompted. The votes will be recorded in the minutes as a unanimous roll call vote unless there are any votes in opposition or abstention. If necessary, the president may subsequently call for a roll call vote to be recorded in the minutes. The first item for voting this evening is the consent agenda that we established at the committee meeting last week.
I just ask that you approve the consent agenda as presented. We did make that one change to the policy to include that it does not preclude booster clubs from doing other fundraising activities.
Great. Any questions regarding the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve items 8.1 through 8.9?
Motion to approve 8.1 through 8.9.
Thank you, Director Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Williams. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of approving items 8.1 through 8.9, please indicate with an aye or a yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, that carries unanimously. We'll move now to the discussion agenda. We do have a few items for discussion and vote this evening.
9.1 would be the district calendar, as I mentioned. Certainly some changes to that allows, as you just heard, for some professional development for us in some areas that I think will be very well received. And the flexibility allows also for some adjustments frankly, with construction, which is going to be a little bit of a pain in the rear end for another year and a half, 2 years. So, yeah.
Okay, any questions on 9.1, the district calendar?
Yes,
Yeah.
I noticed that we're gonna reduce the instructional days from 180 to 175. I counted 172. I could be wrong, the printer could be dark.
No, you're right.
Okay.
It's instructional, it's student days
Yep.
and Act 80 days.
Okay.
Act 80 days count toward your count. What used to be 180 and no longer is 180. Act 80 days count toward that.
Yep,
So
I got
yeah,
you.
yeah,
No.
yep.
Good
Good
question.
question. Great
Yep.
question.
Okay, I think what we'll do is we'll just vote on each of these items individually. We just have three that we're going to vote on. So any other questions on 9.1? Okay, motion to adopt item 9.1.
Motion to adopt 9.1.
Thank you, Director Blau. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you, Director Moyer. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of approving item 9.1, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries unanimously. We'll move to 9.2, the bond resolution.
Yeah, I sent an email about this. Do you say anything about this?
I'm happy to report on what the truth is, which is the sad reality that the newspaper advertisement for your bond sale and resolution was in the wrong newspaper, which
Mm.
I take ownership over. I don't know who at the firm made the mistake, but we own that as a firm. And so it's been re-advertised. Luckily, all of it is within the normal protocol. You were able to have the sale. You just need to reapprove the resolution today, and I take it in tomorrow for filing, and everything moves on. So anyway, we apologize for the error. I still don't know how it happened, but I'm just glad we caught it.
What paper did it run?
Oh, a York paper,
Yeah.
which that is not a newspaper of general circulation here,
Right.
as you might be well aware. So we apologize for the error. We've done hundreds of these, and that was a new one.
So nothing changes regarding what we're voting on. from-
No,
from
they
last
actually,
month.
the one thing is we have a more specific number
Yeah.
because the sale happened and that's
Right.
actually better. So you got a good interest rate and we know the exact number. So that's a nice thing to have.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to adopt item 9.2? Thank you, Director England. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Murray. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of approving item 9.2, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mrs. Said, appreciate it.
And thanks for your compassion.
Okay, we tabled item 9.3 for next month, so we'll move to 9.4.
Yeah, 9.4 is a little different for us, fall and winter coaches for actually 24, 25. There is a reason for that. Just so you know, the CBA that was signed last May, June. There's language in there about notifying coaches if they're not going to be returning within 30 days at the conclusion of their season. One, and two, frankly, to be honest, I was talking with Dr. Kuiper about this. These coaches do a ton of off-season work, and they start, football has started already here in January, right after Christmas break with lifting, and they'll get into their 7-on-7s and go out and throw past. Basketball is the same way. Come April, they'll be starting to do things. Soccer starts to do things. And frankly, we want the people that are going to be coaching the following year to, be organizing and running those off-season workouts. And so it makes way more sense, I think, for us as a district to do that. So this is this is ahead of when we typically do it, but I think it actually makes a lot more sense to do it this way. So.
Thank you. Any questions on the coaches list in item 9.4? Okay, is there a motion to adopt item 9.4? Great, thank you, Director Kreiser. Is there a second?
Second.
Great, thank you, Director Williams. Is there any discussion? Okay, and just as a point of order, as we have indicated in other meetings, and maybe everyone wasn't here, I'm going to take a roll call vote on this, simply because if there's an item, an individual item that you don't agree with, please feel free to indicate that you approve of all of them except, and then I would just suggest that you state the sport, if that's the case. That way, by roll call, we'll give everybody an opportunity if there is any dissenting votes on those. Okay. Okay. With that said, Mrs. Martin, may I please have a roll call vote on 9.4?
Riser.
Aye.
Moyer.
I approve all except for the boys' basketball. Thank you.
Fowler.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Blau.
Yes.
Murray.
Aye.
Klein.
Yes.
England.
Yes.
Nom.
Yes.
All in favor except for the one for the boys basketball.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, information items for this evening.
Yeah, already an approved trip at Costa Rica departure was shifted the date to avoid some conflicts with musical. Just to make sure we don't have kids that if they're doing both. B, Brad, change orders. Do you want to hit on any of those?
Well, you have all except the one.
We were comparing notes as the chairperson of the change.
Oh,
He has one and I have the rest. There's a summary there for you in item B of the change orders that have been approved. The most expensive one was the one that was approved by the change order committee in the amount of $57,040.98. And that has to do with being able to run the air conditioning units that are being installed in the new cafeteria area of the building. There was an issue with the voltage that we had available until permanent voltage comes online. That's a temporary type of expense. Most of the rest of these are low-value amounts that are caused either because we needed an additional item. For example, washer and dryer wasn't spec'd in a specific location in the building, so there's specifications for the plumbing, electrical, and venting. All of that is required, so 3 of these change orders are related to just that. The credit change order comes in place because in the middle school gym, there's duct work in the ceiling. Because we're not doing a lot of ceiling work and the units are of a similar size, we're going to be able to reuse existing duct work that's in good shape and good condition. So we have some expenses and we have some credits.
yeah, I think the contingency fund, he said at the board, at the change order meeting, it's about 30,000 because of some of the credits we've had out of, I don't remember the exact amount that's in there anymore. 2 million, you remember?
1.6 million.
1.6 million, thank you. All right.
And I have 2 more credit change orders that I'm anticipating that are of a substantial value. I'm still working out what that's going to be though.
Okay, that's it for information.
Director Fowler, did you want to chime in at all?
That is great.
Because last month you indicated that you wanted that I skipped over you during the change order. Okay. Great, thanks. I guess I do have one question, Dr. Reist, and I should have emailed you this, but it just occurred to me. As we continue to do the renovations on the HVAC, do they anticipate that this situation might happen again where they may have to, their voltage issues might exist throughout the rest of the building? Do we know?
I believe all of the other locations have already been identified and addressed through some other means. These 2 particular units were something at the very tail end of the bid process that came online and just didn't hit the phasing right. To be honest with you, even though it's close to 60,000 up front, that expense over the long term is actually better for the district. It's a more efficient unit, so we're gonna recoup that over time by not spending. Had we gone with the alternate, it was somewhere close to $70,000 more expensive and not good for the long term of the district.
Okay.
Truly, it is a temporary solution just to get us to a certain time period. Do I anticipate that we will have more issues? We're dealing with the phasing of the hot water loop system as we speak. Whether or not we're going to have clean hot water for the heating system to run the new units, or if we're going to have a mixed system where we have new boilers running through old pipe. Well, you know that part of the reason we're doing this project is because the pipes are old and we were collecting debris and it was clogging the boilers. So we're very sensitive to what solutions they're putting in place or phasing plans so that we're not mixing old with new. And if we are mixing old with new, do we have filters and magnets in line to pull any debris out before it hits new equipment? So I can't guarantee this won't be the last time that we come to you, but what's on the paper right now would suggest it's the last time.
Great, thank you. Good explanation. Appreciate it, Dr. Reist. Thank you. Okay, we'll move then to reports. Director Fowler, Change Order Committee.
Nothing more to report.
Great. Thank you. CTC, Director Klein.
All right.
Last month, I had my alternate, Director Moyer, visit the CTC with me during our monthly meeting. And we got into the preliminary budget discussions a little earlier this year, and that's due to several things. A couple things with adult education closing, we have negotiations going on, and there's a whole bunch of different projects going on there that things are going to be needed to repaired. It's a rather old building. I should have more info next month, but preliminary estimates are come to about a 7.5% increase next year to their budget. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you, good report. IU 13, Director Murray.
So at the IU, we're also discussing budget, which is, always very, very exciting. Although Gina Brohard does a fantastic job of presenting and making everything very understandable to the board. So we'll be asked to approve that in May. They'll send it over for our approval. So if you have any questions about that, I can share with you the finer points of the IU budget that I picked up from that presentation. I would also add that on last Monday, Lauren Bruce and Dr. McInerney attended, and I attended as well, a presentation by a gentleman named, an author, Stephen Cadigan. He's an author of a book called Workquake, which looks at the changes in the workforce that have occurred since COVID. And excellent presentation. I know that Lauren was excited about some of the things that he presented at that on Monday, and I look forward to seeing how those will impact Northern Lebanon, but it's an exciting time to be in the workforce, so,
Great.
yeah.
And how's that commute?
It's still a lot of thinking and praying happen between here and there.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, Legislative Liaison, Director Kreiser.
Probably the most interesting thing to happen in the state legislature recently was there's a bill that's moving through the legislature that would like school districts to use reading evidence-based curriculum for reading. And some other states have done this, and in some of the other states, they have outlined specific reading curriculum that had to be adopted by school districts. So I could see that if the bill were to advance, that could have some impact on the district.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, PSBA Liaison, Director Blau.
There was a lot, actually. Some of the things that I thought most interesting were they were looking at substitute teachers in Washington State. They were starting a program where they were giving specialized training to the substitutes. Just the substitutes having a unique job of being with different subjects, different ages, different classrooms, and how to support them. And they were giving them training like classroom management, how to relate to students that they've never seen or never known before. I just thought seemed like the substitutes teachers really enjoyed that extra support. And then also in Allegheny County, one of the things they're doing to try to get more teachers, they're providing paraprofessionals and other support staff with ways of becoming teachers through online classes. So they don't have to leave their job and go to college full time, but they can get classes online, and they were supporting them, I think, financially to take those classes as well in order to train some of those people to become teachers.
Good. Good, great. Excellent report. Thank you. Any questions on any of those reports? Okay, great. Thank you. Great job, everyone. Any new business for this evening? Okay, hearing none. I would just like to point out one thing. You did all receive an invitation to the Stockton Leader School Law Update and Dinner. Mrs. Say, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, so I'm sure some of you are thinking, oh, we just had an event a little bit ago. That event that we had in January is every 2 years, mainly focused on new board members. This is our thank you dinner that we have every year to give you some of the latest legal updates, as well as just to say thank you, treat you to a night out, show our appreciation for you as our clients, and provide about an hour of education. So we have moved the event up a little bit north in hopes of getting folks like you there. And so we would love to have any or all of you there, just RSVP. And I think it's in what, end of April?
April 17th.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Mhm.
A month
Great.
away.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, I attended one maybe 2, 3 years ago. I would really recommend doing so if you're able to, if you're free that evening. Okay, with that said, is there a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting?
I'll make a motion. Adjourn.
Thank you, Director Moyer. Is there a second?
Second.
Great, thank you, Director Williams. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of adjourning this meeting, please indicate with an aye or yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.